Hello, this is News Pulse on UATV. I am Henry Keane. Thank you so very much for joining and welcome to the show. Today in the episode, Putin called himself a surgeon in his war in Ukraine and threatened Europe with war. Russian dictator threatens to cut off Ukraine from the Black Sea after tanker strike. History teaches us Russia cannot be trusted in anything, let alone in peace. Europe is putting forward proposals unacceptable to Russia regarding the peace plan on Ukraine. The Kremlin leader, Vladimir Putin, claimed this ahead of a meeting with United States Special Envoy Steve Witkoff on December 2nd. He said that Europe is hindering the peace efforts of the United States. President Donald Trump. Putin stated that now Russia is ready for war against Europe. Earlier, the pro-Russian Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban, claimed the same thing, that the European Union supposedly obstructs Trump's peace plan and that Ukraine cannot win the war against Russia. Orban did not mention, of course, that it was Russia that started the war against Ukraine in the first place, but no one really expected him to, right? Let us literally compare to what Putin says and what he actually does.
We are not planning to fight Europe. I have said this 100 times. But if Europe suddenly decides to wage war against us and starts it, we are ready right now. There can be no doubt about that. The question is, if Europe starts a war with us, I believe that very quickly. This is not Ukraine. With Ukraine, we act in a surgical, careful way, you understand, right? It is not war in the full, modern sense of the word. If Europe chooses to start a war, the situation can very quickly reach a point where there will be no one left for us to negotiate with.
Russian dictator Vladimir Putin is likely creating informational conditions to justify possible attempts by Russia to seize the Odessa and Mykolaiv regions, although at this stage such a takeover remains highly unlikely. This is stated in December 2nd report by analysts at the Institute for the Study of War. Putin claims that in response to the December 2nd strike on tanker, the most radical reaction from Russia will be to cut off Ukraine from the Black Sea. I wonder why such a harsh reaction, after all, if Russia has many times stated that there is no any shadow fleet out there. And if there is, it's not Russian.
What the Ukrainian armed forces are doing is piracy. What kind of retaliatory measures can we take? Firstly, we would extend the range of our strikes on vessels and boats entering Ukrainian ports. Secondly, if attacks on Russian tankers continues, we would consider the possibility, I am not saying we will do it, but we would consider the possibility of retaliatory measures against vessels of those countries that help Ukraine carry out such pirate actions. The most radical solution is to cut Ukraine off from the sea. Then piracy will be impossible for Ukraine in principle.
Well, we decided to find out what are the means of cutting Ukraine off from the sea. Putin could use these means, and here they are. The cruiser Moskva, the frigate Admiral Makarov, the corvette Sergei Kotov, 5 large landing ships, Minsk, Gornyak, Novocherkassk, Saratov and Caesar Kunikov, and 3 small missile ships, Askold, Veliki Ustyug and Samum, the diesel-electric submarine Rostov-on-Don, and a number of auxiliary ships in Black Sea that Ukrainian armed forces already turned into submarines. Putin also could have used battalions of Marine Brigade of the Pacific Fleet or Sevastopol, or the Baltic Fleet, by the way, a combined group of other marine units, at least 4 full airborne assault divisions he could use to cut us off if he could, but he can't, as all the above mentioned, there just do not exist anymore. What does it take to understand the Kremlin in general and its one and only rule of Vladimir Putin? You'd have to be a former Soviet, really. You'd have to actually be living back then and understand what was it like back then. So you'd surely make up your mind today. Soviet Russia? Thank you, but no thank you. Been there, done that. As Russia wants war, always wanted and waged them, as simple as that. Moreover, all Russia wants is war. And when we say Russia, we mean Putin. And while indeed for Russia as a political and economical country and entity does not need war, as it is bad for the state, it is killing its people, bad for international image, economy, future of the country, yes. But Putin doesn't give a flying duck what is good for Russia. He wants war. He enjoys every day of it. He adores all these military meetings and summits and the thrill of it, giving orders and boasting and playing rough Russian brute alpha. But what Americans do not understand and will never understand, maybe, is that Putin does not care about Russia at all. Even if Russia goes down in flames, he'd be all right anyway, and most likely will avoid any accountability. He is a Tsar, the Tsar, Vladimir I. And he does not want to go in peace, he wants to stay and break everything in pieces. He can't spit that truth directly into Trump's face, of course, and say, like, no, we won't sign anything with Ukraine as I'm enjoying the whole thing, and since you, dear Americans, are most likely to reward me, Putin, with Ukrainian lands, those that I was not able to capture in 4 years of my invasion in Ukraine, I will likely take it and then demand more, and I will get it, and then demand even more, and never, never stop. Why would I, if you let me? On the brink of World War II, Neville Chamberlain was believing that giving up on a small little piece of land, Sudetenland, a historical region in Central Europe that is now part of Czech Republic, is the right thing to do. Give up on this tiny region and Hitler will stop, he thought, because that is what Adolf Hitler promised him. Why Ukraine is fighting more than Chamberlains are asking today. Just stop, give up on your dignity, some land, and prosperity awaits you.
Theoretically, doing the right things, in 10 years, Ukraine's GDP could be larger than Russia's. These are the kinds of things. Stop the war, make sure they never get invaded or attacked again, protect Ukraine's long-standing and long-term sovereignty and independence so that they don't become a puppet state, they're actually independent and sovereign, and allow their economy not just to recover, but to prosper and turn it into a story of prosperity.
Sounds lovely, but there is only one tiny thing that bothers us in Ukraine in terms of what we just heard, and that thing is Russia. Not a single agreement binded, ever. Turns into ruins whatever it touches. It betrays, it rapes, it burns, abducts our children in Ukraine. Security guarantees? Great. However, if the American administration asks Ukraine to sign the peace agreement first and only then wants to discuss security guarantees for it, I wonder, can it even be called guarantees in the first place? The Economist puts it nicely. Authors quote Benjamin Franklin in his statement that there is no such thing like a good war or a bad peace, noting that Franklin, for all his wisdom, was wrong. The use of force can be just. An article says that in the era of the dominance of self-proclaimed peacemaker Donald Trump, bad peace agreements do exist. This explains the insistent tone of the November 22nd statement by 15 leaders from Europe, Japan and Canada, who urged the US president to seek a just and lasting peace for Ukraine and not peace at the cost of land, dignity and Ukrainian future. The call is a combination of moral and practical concerns. America's allies fear a peace that is so unfairly one-sided in favor of Russia that it will not be accepted by Ukrainian people and will undermine the social fabric of their already fragile democracy. They also fear a Trump-brokered ceasefire would reward Putin for his aggression and fail to prevent future Russian attacks on Ukraine and its European neighbors, the article says. Well, let me just quote a bit more of the Economist's article. That is literally the keys to the castle, if you ask me. And an answer to the question why the United States under Trump does not understand Vladimir Putin, not even close. But first, let us hear the United States out.
Why don't you stop killing each other and start trading with one another? Why, rather than Russia and Ukraine killing one another, why don't they actually engage in some commerce with one another, travel between the two countries, engage in some sort of cultural exchange?
Well, Trump and his admins seem to have difficulty understanding why people would fight for values while disparaging American veterans of foreign wars, calling them suckers and losers, according to Trump's former aides. Trump's Vice President, J.D. Vance, recently explained, as you saw, with approval, how Trump wonders why Ukrainians and Russians won't just stop killing each other and start trading. In part because more peace in the world is good for American workers. Even more relevant to the Trump era is how the great powers in World War II bluffed their way into the Treaty of Versailles. They turned a blind eye when German leaders told their citizens that their troops had been stabbed in the back by treacherous politicians without actually suffering a single defeat in battle. And neither America nor Great Britain took any actions when Germany stopped paying required war reparations and began rearming. So my question to the world is, are we trusting another dictator today doing the same very mistake again? In Russia, in the Tambov region, a refinery caught fire overnight of December 3rd following UAV assault. The regional governor confirmed that the blaze at the oil facility in Tambov occurred because drone debris fell on the site. Footage of a large fire at a refinery is circulating widely in social media. According to online sources, the target of last night's attack was the oil depot Tambov Nafta Product in the village of Dmitrievka, Tambov region, Russia. The Turkish shipping company Besiktas announced it will suspend all vessel operations involving Russia after one of its tankers was damaged near Senegal's shores. The company stressed it has always complied with international sanctions and the G7 EU price cap, but said the current security situation has become unacceptable for both its vessels and crews. Besiktas Shipping is known as one of Turkey's largest tanker operators. Well, that seems to be it for today. I'm Henry Keane. Thank you so very much for your attention and for standing firmly with Ukraine.